Yep, situations have changed here. But you know what hasn't changed? Invincible. Yes, it's one of my favorite shows right now, and it's actually really great. Now, yeah, this is gonna be a regular, review, and for the people who are new to this, hi, welcome. I'm just gonna talk about it and not do any much edits because I do not have anything edited. You know what? I don't wanna, explain it to you because there's a video explaining how I make videos. But anyways, yeah, Invincible season 4 just came out, and I just finished watching the entire 8 episodes, and it was amazing. I really liked it. The thing about Invincible is that it most famously is about the writing, and I think the writing, the plot is really good, and I think you should give it a try. But anyways, there's also some things that people will like to, say bad things, but okay, never mind. So yeah, we'll do in the classic 10s and also just tell about the whole thing. Especially where there's a lot of new characters that are revealed. Most importantly, everybody probably knows the big screen guy who is supposed to be the big bad of all. It's mostly like the rest of the season. Grand Regent Frag. And there will be some talks about Grand Regent Frag. It's just that there's a lot to talk about. But Mark's arc and everybody else's mark is also great. Well, first, let's get to the bad things first because there's a lot of things I need to say about the bad stuff. Now, let me just say this now before everybody gets confused or everybody gets bad. It's the animation. Okay, I think the animation has gone a little bit a bit low this year. Last season was a little bit off. I could see a few things that are missing. However, this season got a little bit more of that. I feel like some of the things that are just pencil colored there and just one color there, no shades, no nothing, not even like a little bit of effects, a little bit of grain in their faces or something. Most notably, episode 7, because since the whole fight is going on in space, I think it's easy to animate a bunch of people just staying there in the same position and just moving. But boy, every time Frag shows up, it is just beautiful. Except for like that part. Yeah, and this part was one of my favorite parts. But I think that's enough, showing clips for now. Now, there's a lot of things to talk about what's so wrong about the animation. A lot. There's a lot of PNGs are just moving straight. Like, literally, I could just draw an animation. Like, literally, just pretend this is Mark, okay? Just pretend this selfie stick is Mark. And it just shows him floating up spaces like that. And it's not even, a bunch of like moving, his limbs are moving around. It's just a PNG, just him moving there. And there's also many other things like facial stuff, a whole, bunch of changes for reasons. And I do understand the problem that because, they're reaching for a time that, is basically impossible. They're doing this in the lifespan of I don't know, like a gecko or frog or something. It is short. It is like almost a year. Last season was, also as fast as possible. I honestly think that they should give their time. Now, I don't want to say any foul play here because of the animation, but I think Amazon might have a bias and a greedy problem. Obviously, all greedy problems, come from, greedy corporate companies. And I know a lot of people who are defending Invincible said, no way, no. You see, I actually think that the animation is great. I think, okay, maybe the animation is not great. However, I do think I want it sloppy and terrible animation as long as I get it as fast as possible as I want. I want those instant noodles in my body right now. Which, okay, all power to you. Okay, you can do whatever you want. However, I do think that Invincible can also be a great animated series and also a great storytelling series as well. The thing is here is if it really is the line up to the problem of just time instead of money, which is kind of, to me, it's probably one of the most obvious answers. I think they should give a bit more time, a little bit of fresh air for the workers to breathe in, so the animators can have time for focus to work on like smaller details on almost everything on the animation, because I think that's really great for like a TV, like a superhero series that that's even really cool detail that's in the moment you watch it. I think you're gonna be really interested. It just really looks like that you're just watching a bunch of pictures moving. I know that's what basically what animation is, but you know what I mean. Animation could be really better if they just given them the time. And if Jeff Bezos isn't, drinking his 10 sparkling water that's covered in layered gold right now, I think they should give a little bit more pay to the animators. And I don't think this sounds kind of blasphemous for the greedy greedy billionaires who own the companies and the animations. I just really think they should just reconsider of giving more, stuff to the animators because they deserve it most. And there's also another problem. It's because they keep, inviting these A-list celebrities or A-list actors or voice actors to join here. Like for examples, Emperor Argol is voiced by the same voice actor as Megatron. And almost all these guys are really famous. Like Datus is voiced by, literally Optimus Prime. So it's literally Optimus Prime and Megatron. And there's also the voice of Lex Luthor. Not to mention J.K. Simmons, Seth Rogen, literally most of them, and I think his name is Huang. What I'm trying to say is all these guys are, basically, high-paying people who are voice actors. And I think that is a bit too much, and then, the balance is just not that much. And this show is bringing a lot of people, cash and stuff. It is bringing a lot of cash to them, and not directly to the people who would actually need them, the animators. And I really do care about animators. So, yeah, anyways, I know, I'm sorry if I say some blasphemous stuff for the people who think like, oh, I love the invincible animation. I like it because it's bad. I like it when it's bad, because it builds character and stuff. Alright, but let's just agree to disagree. There's a lot of things still to talk about. For examples, a lot of changes. There is one change on episode 4 where Mark goes to hell and meets Satan and then helps him fight with these lava people. And I didn't saw that in the comics, and the people said like there's none of these in the comics. And it's like this whole thing was filler, and it's supposed to be like another thing for the plot. So yeah, so it's fine. But here's the other thing. The thing about the hell part here is that it's supposed to be a part of another episode that was going to come, or like another threat, which makes it's not a big issue, but I think like for like small conflicts like B plots, for examples like Monster Girl and Robot are stuck in the Flaxlands dimension, and there's still this mummy that's stuck in the desert, and these goon mafia guys with Hard Rock or Stonehead and this guys with a cool voice or something. They're making money and corruption and fighting the dragon. I feel like those plots were like less interesting. They're still probably useful. I think that they should just immediately finish the problem. That I guess the only reason why they did that is because they like need something more interesting to happen there, and they need something else to do other than the main plot that the viltrumites are trying to invade Earth and stuff. So yeah, probably that. Another thing I don't say I don't like, but it's just weird for some reason. They give Tech Jacket a good old gender bender, and probably make Oliver Oliver, that's Mark's brother and Nolan's son, the kid that's born from the bug. I thought it would be a love interest, and then they shows like Oliver was supposed to be like into lobsters because they have this weird thing like he likes lobsters because he's something that makes him feel like. But what I'm trying to say is it's kind of weird that did they give him something like a plot of a love interest, and then suddenly just give him like, oh wait, I'm still into bugs and stuff. Oh, whatever, man, who cares? And finally, there's another thing, like they make Paul, I forgot Debbie's relationship with Paul. I think his name is Paul. Yeah, the normal guy. And they kind of said, all right, it's over. We're not. We have a mutual breakup, and it's like, okay, thank you. Why did that ended there? I thought that Paul and that'd be a great thing because like their worlds are just too separate. I'm a guy who's working stocks and climbing the corporate ladder. You need to go to an alien hospital and have taking back shots by a giant super titan alien. Okay, I guess. But I guess that's not all the stuff I need to talk about that makes me a little bit tingle in my britches there. But let's talk about the good stuff. There is a lot of good stuff that unfortunately it's taken up by the bad stuff, and it's already been 10 minutes. Let's start with the most biggest thing, frag. I think they did an absolute perfectly good job with frag. All a frag has ever done is just aura farming the whole time. Like for this part, I think it's one of the people's favorite part that he literally bends the air around him by ready to swing and just punches Nolan all the way to the stratosphere, which is I think is one of the coolest things ever. There's also that one time when Mark tries to punch him and eventually just hurts himself, and it's basically like like a regular man or like I don't know, some kind of guy trying to fight a giant gorilla. I think they did a perfectly good job of how menacing Frag is, how powerful he is, and how scary he is to other people, and to make Mark literally traumatized and having PTSD even though he is not there. Well, eventually he will be there. Another great thing about this is obviously because of the plot and the storytelling, which makes it really good for reading, is that the Nolan arc. Nolan is obviously a bad person for killing like 2,000 people in Chicago. I think he killed more than just 2,000 people. He killed the Guardians of the Globes and all the workers and stuff. I guess like running up to 3 million. And he also like almost blew up the Flaxen's planet. And they did call him like the Pret, and the main reason why Nolan is there is for other reasons and not actually to help him. And he thought that by just thinking about apologizing, and I know he's definitely not getting the apology, but him just saying I'm sorry and I think he might have the thought of like, oh, if I apologize for what I've done, they'll probably forgive me. Maybe they won't, but maybe just a slight tingle of hope they will probably forgive me. And I love that how Nolan has to learn that what he did was back in Chicago, which is a terrible thing. I don't know, it's just Chicago or whatever. I'm just kidding for the people in Chicago. It's just a joke. But anyways, yeah, he is really great in this arc, trying to like find himself to able to forgive, and like obviously forgiveness is earned and not just given out there. And I think that's a really good arc for Nolan, aka Omni-Man. I think the writers are doing a pretty good job of doing that, even though I think it's just the inspiration of the comics. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is they did try a really good thing with Nolan, especially during the time they have bonding with Oliver when he tried to fight, when he's trying to survive this alien planet while fighting Conquest and stuff. Speaking of Conquest, I think he's totally dead. I don't know if I read the comics. He is totally dead because he read him, dead or something. A lot of memes about Carl Quest. I saw the Carl Quest, Carl Conquest, Peaceful Conquest memes. Just to put it out there, I always just find that really funny. And then there's a lot of bonding between Nolan and Oliver, which I think is pretty great. I think they should up the arcs on Oliver. I do find Oliver also entertaining, also with Tech Jacket. I think they're really great characters. And I think there's a lot of potential for Oliver's arc. Instead of just being a kid who is really stubborn and ready into the fight, I think that's just Nolan's genes are just talking to him. Maybe not, I don't know. But anyways, yeah, I really like those arcs too. I really also like the Eve's arc about him not telling Mark about he had a word, baby gone process. That's a weird thing to say, but anyways, yeah, that's pretty nice arc, and all the emotional parts actually hits here. It's just pretty cool, and I think they need to doing that because it was just a great part of it. Oh yeah, characters. There's a lot of cool characters that are in Invincible. For example, Space Racer, and the Infinity Ray. I think they I think they no, they kind of utilize it, but I think they should utilize Space Racer's Infinity Ray a lot more better because that thing is super OP as AF. But I do think they, tone it down for Space Racer's, skill for using the Infinity Ray, because that Infinity Ray literally helped destroy the planet Viltrum as long as with Mark, Nolan, and Fadus. It is a great, amazing scene, I guess, when they blow up the planet. I think it's just that for the Death Star. But anyways, yeah, I think they tone it down with that. Also, they also like still don't do that much with Ragnar's with the beetle poison and Tech Jacket is there. I don't know how Tech Jacket actually defeat it. I think there's nothing wrong with Tech Jacket. I just don't know how you're supposed to like actually beat a viltrumite here. But you know what I mean. Yeah, they should utilize many of these things but I'm guessing that they won't be using it right now because they are literally in Earth. Okay, spoiler. I think I forgot to say spoilers, but in spoilers in the ending here is that Bragg sent all the viltrumites, like all 37 or something, all the viltrumites there to live down on Earth disguised as human beings and start making them as much as bebes as possible to repopulate their Viltrum kind, because there are only 37 of them and their home is destroyed because of Mark, and all this is put into Mark. So I'm guessing there won't be any huge fighting, I guess, in the next season, because a lot of the Viltrumites are there, and Drag it threatens if they ever start any conflict or they ever try to hunt or kill them one by one, or the coalition comes, they would destroy the entire planet, which is, I think it's a good thing for Mark to say, yeah, okay, maybe this was a good idea, instead of punching his way out. That's another thing. I really like how Mark, in that one scene where he really wanted to punch or just fight, like when Anissa, a whole lot of things like Anissa and Conquest, he always just punches and says, no, I won't give up Earth. I don't care about Viltrum. I give a S about Viltrum. But this time he's thinking rationally and thinking logically, or I think it's because of the PTSD, I guess, is why he didn't choose to, just keep fighting Frag or hunting the other Viltrumites. But I guess, yeah, that's all I have to say. There's so much thing. The music is pretty okay. I don't know any music that I remember, but there were some that just looked up my beats. A lot of good small details that came in. But yeah, a lot of good Eve parent problems are there. Yeah, basically, I think it's a really good, TV show. There's a lot of, I'll give this for the animation. There's a lot of things good in the animation, like the part when Mark tried to punch, Frag's skull, and then it shows like visions or something with the skull. And then Fadus, I love Fadus. I love Alan. They're both one of my favorite characters right now. They're pretty cool. They're really funny. I really think Fadus is, really good OP. I don't know his actual intentions, because they actually killed him early a bit. And especially when he is actually the betrayer, and he's the one who caused the population to go from like 100 to 1 immediately. He created the Scourge virus, which is, I think, a really great plot and a really great thing for like talkative stuff. But anyways, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So, giving Invincible season 4 here, I'm giving it, drumroll please, 8 out of 10. 8 out, sorry, that's my bad. 8 out of 10. I think it's a great series, and I think you should give Invincible a watch. If you're not a big superhero fan, I think you're a big fan of like gore stuff, like when Conquest pulls Invincible's guts like SpaghettiOs. I think you should give it a watch. Or are you just into like weird, cool superhero adult stuff? It's fine. Go ahead. However, I do think there should be better things with the animation. Please give the animators a good chance to really shine here. They have potential. They can do it. They just need time and money. Well, that's all I had to say for, Invincible is really cool. So yeah.